Welcome to the Authenticos podcast, the show that covers everything related to delivering digital transformation in large organizations. Your hosts, Jacob and Jesper, will share their own stories and unfiltered views as they guide you through delivery of digital transformation.
Right, Jacob, so here we are, the first episode of Authenticos.
Yes.
Where the subject we picked is going to be typical challenges that we see on big transformation projects.
Yes.
I'll definitely have some stories to share, but given you are probably the one that's been driving it mostly from a management perspective, I'm going to let you start out. So how about you just tell us about... how about you just tell about like some of the top 2 or top 3 challenges you see whenever you get involved with a client project?
Yeah, one that comes to my mind is the beginning, is the pre-phase. So,
and when you say pre-phase, what does that actually mean?
That's actually the phase where you do your vision statement. You do your high level Northern Star.
Yeah.
What is you want to aim for in let's say a couple of years, where you see the organization being in.
I see. So it's all of the analytical groundwork leading up to making a decision.
Yes, and you really take the temperature on the organization in terms of both the resources which you have available, the resources that you need. You also look at, of course, the technology side of where you want to go with, which platforms you want to go with. But you also look at the maturity of the organization, which is very keen to my heart.
Yeah.
To do an assessment of the maturity where you want to be, and the resources that you need to upscale to be able to fulfill the transformation.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of organizations not skipping the first part, but actually spending too little time on that element.
I see. I mean, I've definitely seen organizations just skipping that part, and you end up with I would get called into a program, and you just stand there and you don't understand why they even started to begin with, or what's the outcome of this. So there's no way of kind of managing or directing the team, or highlighting what's the benefit of what we're doing.
Yeah, I even seen like requirements being written on one piece of paper, like on a napkin, and I'm not joking, on a big transformation project, where 2 guys over a cup of coffee, like we're sitting now, were writing the specification, and the rest was in the head of these 2 gentlemen.
Jesus, that requires a lot of trust.
That requires a lot of trust, and of course that program ran into some serious trouble rather quickly.
Yeah. So, but I guess when you say that they don't spend time enough in the pre-phase or all the kind of or scoping things out before making a decision, I guess that's not the same as when you start a project without having signed a contract.
No, for me it's like
that. Because that happens a lot too.
It happens a lot too, but no, I'm really talking about the pre-phase. There's not even a project. There's not even a funding for the project. There's not even a project organization.
I see.
This is just to vision, and that's why I call it the Northern Star.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be as an organization in 1 year, 5 years? Exactly. What mergers and acquisitions do you have planned? What other strategic projects do you run within the organization, which at the end of the day could jeopardize the project that you want to start up in short term?
So essentially, obviously, what strategic direction is this supporting, and how is that prioritized against other initiatives that'll also drive the business forward?
Yeah. What's the state of your operations? What's the state of your other strategic projects? I've seen that on several projects I've been involved in, that you have cannibalism between the different.
Yeah, I like that word.
Between the different.
I can definitely relate to it from a project perspective, but yeah.
Yeah, I was part of a bigger transformation some years ago for global organization, where we had two major programs. One was the back end upgrade, the implementation of a new ERP system.
Yeah.
And the other one was like a strategic sales initiatives, where we wanted to integrate the supply chain of the client.
Right.
And those two programs were not prioritized against each other, which meant that we had, and everyone talked about this, we had cannibalism between the programs.
So they were using the same resources, but
same resources, and stealing from the same base of resource within the organization.
And that's obviously just a recipe for disaster, right? Like two projects that is, resource wise not aligned, which means that you could have the same resource fully allocated to both.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happened. Plus business as usual, so your day-to-day operations, where that person came from. Obviously, because these are, in my experience, the people you need on a program or project like that is, they are the people that knows how the business is run, and therefore they're also go-to people within the business.
Yeah.
So they'll keep, unless you're very good, they'll keep kind of getting drawn back into the business.
Absolutely, and these people were like, subject matter experts within their own their own field, in supply chain, within finance. So we needed these people to be able to be part of both programs. And then, we ended up in a good situation. So we actually addressed this elephant in the room and had a really good discussions across both programs. So we were able to build governance, which.
But before you got to that point, was there then a breaking point that kind of meant that now you have to talk about it and bring it up to management?
Oh yeah, there were several breaking points. Steerco meetings. I was sitting in one steerco, and my other team was sitting in the other steerco. So we needed to bring this to the highest attention in the organization and get an organ within the project or program actually to fulfill these.
Which is what I would call some level of portfolio management.
Yes.
Yeah. So you started, I'm assuming, scheduling resources across the programs.
Yeah, we did because we broke it down to into the tasks that we needed, and we time boxed these really critical business resources into hours where we had them available for both programs.
And then how did it end out with your program, but also the other one? Because it sounds like you were heading in the wrong direction.
We were heading in the wrong directions. And as I said, that's why the word cannibalism came up, because that was really what we were doing. We were stealing resources and time from each other.
Yeah.
And we were able to solve that by having an open discussion around it and getting focus on it.
Yeah. So, but and then practically, what happened then? Is there there must have been some kind of a cross-program layer that you put in that could kind of align things.
Yeah,
that wasn't there before.
It wasn't there before.
Yeah.
So we had both strategic programs, both on the same line.
Yeah.
Two steercos.
Yeah.
So we were able to build a new one on top of that.
Right.
With participants from both programs.
I see. It's, which would obviously require, I'm assuming, buy-in from senior executive management.
Yes.
I see. So I mean, but the point about just ring fencing resources, I think that's definitely one of my main things going into a project, and just quickly assessing whether or not this is going to be a success or not.
Yes.
And I have the best project I've been on when it comes to that was for a Microsoft partner that that had accepted the challenge, so to say, of rolling out a global finance system and the supply chain management, plus a handful of integrations to 32 countries in less than a year. And I'm sure you know,
Yeah.
12 months to do a full-scale global implementation, like most people just say, it's not going to happen.
It cannot be done.
No, it can't be done.
No, it can't be done.
You're not even going to get the requirements in that time.
No.
Let alone do a full-on implementation and be live in this many countries. But the success story is it happened, and kudos to the Microsoft partner who did this. They accepted the project, but they pushed back with the following terms, which was number one, we want to be able to pick our resources, and those resources need to be ring-fenced completely from the business. So the client accepted that. But the same demand was made internally in the organization, because good people, they get pulled into all kinds of projects as well, for support, for advisory. But
Not to mention operation.
exactly. But this was a ring fencing of resources on both sides,
Yeah.
which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And the other part that made it a success in my eyes was the fact that there was a burning bridge. So something had to be done before those 12 months, because this was a company that had sold off their service division.
Yes.
And if that service division was still using the company's old supply chain system, daily or monthly.
There was a penalty to be paid.
Yes. Which meant when we went out to a country where normally the country managers, they would look at it as a candy shop. Okay, right, now we can fix all of this stuff that's been that hasn't been working for years.
Yes.
Then we could say maybe in the phase 2 or 3, but right now, if we don't go live, and you insist on this, are you happy to take on the cost of the penalty if we get delayed? And then we could move mountains.
Yes.
So that was and I think at one point we were 120 consultants, developers, project managers, and so on. But it was to me that's the best success story I've ever been part of. Yes. Because people always say it can't be done, but it can.
It can be done, and it is a very good example. I have been part of similar programs where we had similar success with the rollout, because we were very able to tell the local subsidiaries what they're getting and what they're not getting in terms of the core platform that we were implementing, whether it was a finance system, supply chain.
Yeah.
But also that if they came up with requirements which were outside the local legal, they would share a burden of the cost of that implementation. I just want to bring that up because for me that's a very important aspect to discuss, and something
it is.
I see often not communicated or not told to the this and for me, just to share burden of the cost is really, really important, because it just shows that the headquarters is not going to pay for everything.
It's fair. It makes sure that it doesn't turn into a candy shop. It's and when I think about the projects I've been on, it's absolutely right. Like when shared responsibility, that being ownership of something or the cost of it, always kind of yields the best results.
And then I can bring another example, because, as you know, I usually say I've seen the really good projects. I also seen the worst of the worst.
Yes.
and some of the worst ones have been where you didn't even, you're doing a global implementation,
Yeah.
Microsoft implementation, but it could have been any ecosystem, and you would chose the countries to begin with.
Yeah.
Just a matter of how close were they to your headquarter, and you chose a country.
Yeah. There's all kinds of parameters.
Yeah,
to choose those things from.
You chose a country wrongly.
Yeah.
A country that you didn't even own 100%.
Oh, I see.
So.
Yeah.
And then you can say the bridge.
So the headquarters only has a minority share.
They only had exactly. Yeah. So they only had 40% ownership in the country, which meant that the country had all the interest in raising the bar in that implementation. Come with all the requirements. And actually, we were stuck, or the country, but it took them 5 years to go live with one country.
Yeah.
Until we were able to address the elephant in the room and actually take over the ownership of the whole country.
Yeah.
And tell them, okay, this is what you're getting.
Yeah. So you can just mandate what happens.
We could mandate,
yeah.
but it's just these cases are out there. And I just want to want to stress that,
and especially in like big global corporations where there's mergers, acquisitions all the time. It's not always a straight 100% ownership.
No.
I had a similar case as well, where there was a branch in the US, which was, which this organization only owned part of, but it was kind of the reverse. To your example, we went out there, and then obviously we had the agreed scope and template, and then this is what we're gonna do. And then they would say, no, we want this. And we'd be like, you can't do that. That's typical answer to protect the scope. Can't have that. Next phase. And they would then turn around and say, how much? We'll just pay ourselves.
Yes.
And basically just create a side project. But it was that was interesting. So it can create ripples in all kinds of different ways, really.
It can. And some years ago, I was part of, and there was an Oracle implementation where we had to do a carve out. So we had to take out a legal company. And that was actually successful as well, because back to your case, there was a
case, right?
Yeah, there was a penalty. There was a penalty if we didn't meet a specific date.
And no one wants to pay that.
And no one wanted to pay that because that was going to be very, very expensive. So we had to be live on a specific date. And what we did was that we actually lowered the functionality. Yeah. And then we went live with reduced functionality.
Yeah. But I'm assuming.
And then I just want to. And then we did rather quickly. We did a release of new functionality. Yeah. There was several waves after the go live.
Exactly. But I'm assuming that they didn't go live with less than what they had before. It's just they probably didn't see any improvements until the next waves.
Actually, we went live with less functionality.
Really?
Because the penalty not to go live.
I see.
Was so big.
Yeah.
So they had reduced functionality.
Okay.
There was actually manual processes for a couple of months that we
okay,
were running with, and then we automated those processes with the system.
I see.
So it's just an interesting example when there's a very tight deadline.
Yeah.
Back to your example with the 1 year, and the penalty is substantial.
Then things can move.
Yeah. Things can move,
and you can get decisions made really fast as well.
Yes.
And it's a bit of a shame actually, because I think a lot of projects, a lot of programs, they could end up being hugely successful if they took some of those learning points. But without a burning bridge, the decision path becomes unclear quite often as well, and it's a shame because it does lead to some very, very bad experiences out there.
And back to your question in the beginning, what are the lessons, from these transformation challenges that we could, and the other one is to surround yourself with people who've done this before.
Yes. Yeah.
Try to reinforce your resources as quickly as possible. Bring in the A team, have the A team available.
Yeah. And even if you don't have the A team, you can quite often create the A team by, let's say, bringing a third-party advisor or someone who can kind of just give your approach and everything else a once-over. Preferably a few times throughout your implementation. I know that's an approach that I personally like, not just on the management side, but also on the kind of the more technical side.
Yes.
And this is something we'll touch more on in the next episode. But the whole speed of technological change and how we keep up with that, because that is actually one of the typical challenges on a program as well. But as we talked about, it's such a big subject that we're just going to park and cover in a separate episode.
Right.
And I think on that, really.
Yes.
We just did our first episode.
I think we did the first episode, so cheers.
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 And looking forward to many more conversations.
Likewise.